Hello everyone. So my name is Pedro, and today I'm gonna go over with you 11 tips and tricks that I have figured by analyzing the cards and watching many Chinese tournaments and online tournaments too. So I wanted to share that with you, and I will finish this video with one puzzle that you can do to try to test your skills in Riftbound. So let's begin. Um, the first tip that I wanted to share is when you are playing green against Kaisa. So if you're playing as a green player against Kaisa, I highly recommend in games 2 and 3 because normally you are not playing on Gilding Spirit in your main board. I recommend to keep your Defys for smoke screen. So as you can see, Defy can target all the same cards that Unyielding Spirit can target, plus smoke screen. So if your opponent has in his hand Hextech Ray and Smokescreen and you lose your Defy to Hextech Ray and you have Unyielding Spirit in hand, this card will be dead. So keep in mind that Defy is the only card in your deck that can deal Smokescreen. Another tip is as a Master Yi player, especially when you play against Kaisa, um, if after game one you know you will go second, I highly recommend you to play Obelisk of Power as your battlefield and hard mulligan for Qiyana, because with this you will start turn one with four might, with four runes. Which means that you can play Qiyana on turn one, and this card is super hard to deal for a Kaisa player. Now let's talk about some other tips and tricks. So here you are playing against green as a orange player. So let's say you want to play Primal Strength to deal with this Ari here. If you play Primal Strength before going to Showdown and your opponent is able to counter it, that's it. Your Primal Strength will be countered, and you will decide not to go to Showdown because you can't kill this Ari. But let's see the other example where you start the showdown and you decide in your attacker action priority to activate Primal Strength. Your opponent can just counter it, and your first mate will be in the showdown. So he will just die to Ari because you decided to attack before checking if they have a counter spell. Another example is a nice interaction between Falling Star and Zhonya. So Falling Star says that you can choose different units. So you need to choose a unit or two units, and Falling Star will deal 3 damage twice. So let's say you choose Clockwork Keeper as your only target. The first time you will deal the 3 damage. Clockwork Keeper would normally die, but because of Zhonya, um, Clockwork Keeper will not die. It will stay on the battlefield, and Zhonya will recall it instead. And that means that because the target never changed, because Clockwork Keeper never left the battlefield, the second Falling Star damage will dealt in the revived Clockwork Keeper, if you can say that. So it will technically die, but Zhonya will keep it in the battlefield, and the second damage will actually kill it for good. This is important because if you decide to target, for example, Ari here, Ari will receive 6 damage and it will die. But Zhonya will just revive her. And in this scenario, Clockwork Keeper is alive for free, where in this scenario, at least you are able to clean this little unit. Another tip that I wanted to share is about seals. So be really mindful when you play a seal on turn one. In this example, I float 1 mana, I play my Seal of Rage, I float another mana, a power, and I play Vi. This is just for an example because in my opinion, you don't want to play Vi on turn one. But here you decided to go 1 rune behind for the rest of the game to play a Vi. It's okay. But let's say you decide to play your seal on turn 1 and you don't use it. This means that you lost a rune for free And for the rest of the game, you are -1 rune compared to your opponent. And you didn't even use the seal. This means that you could have used this seal on the next turn to play another unit which costs 1 power, and it will be okay. But you decided to play it on the turn 1 and don't use it. This means that you are -1 rune for the rest of the game for nothing. So be really mindful when you play your seals. You want to use the ability right away, because if not, just keep it in your hand. At least that you want to do some Legion interactions. That I can justify, of course. Let's play. Let's say another example. Here, you are playing against Orange. When you're playing against Orange and you see that your opponent has at least 6 runes, I highly recommend that you be aware of Gentleman's Duel, because if you decide in this occasion to play your Buccaneer tapped here and you attack the first mate, they can just respond to Gentleman's Duel, which will give +3 might to the first mate, and it will fight another unit. So it can fight your Buccaneer that you just played. Buccaneer will deal first mate 5 damage, but dealing damage doesn't reduce the amount of might damage that the unit can still do. So taking damage doesn't reduce the might that the first mate will deal. So it will kill Buccaneer and still be able to deal 6 damage to Scorcher. So here Buccaneer is dead, and now they will fight. First mate needs 1 more damage to die, but it will deal 6 damage to the dragon. So both will die, and you lost your Buccaneer for free. In this other example, let's say you move your Scorcher because you think you can beat the first mate. They play Gentleman's Duel, but they choose to fight the Scorcher because this, let's say, is your only unit on play. Scorcher will die, and after you can play your Buccaneer safely. Another example. Here, let's say you're playing against green and you get charmed to go to the battlefield because this Ahri player thinks that they can kill your Vi. Because you are attacking their battlefield, you are allowed to play Cleave. This is a really small tip, but if you don't know, Cleave can be played in response to a charm. Now let's get a more complicated example that you might not even know. Let's say this green player is it's trying to conquer this battlefield. Your opponent attacks the battlefield, so they pass the prio because they don't want to play an action. Me, I I get the prio and I can myself activate Zenith Blade or Ride the Wind. In this case, I will move my Faithful Manufactor to this battlefield. For example, I know that it's too small to beat the Ahri, but let's imagine this was a little bit bigger. Because this Ahri player tried to conquer the battlefield before, I am not considered as the attacker. I arrived after. It's the green player who tried to conquer this battlefield, so they will be considered as the attacker. I am the defender in this case. This is super important because you would think that because I entered the battlefield where the Ahri is, I will be the attacker. So if my opponent is on Mastery or Ahri, their legend abilities will trigger. But this is not the case because they try to conquer the battlefield first. I am the defender. Let's say another example that it's mostly it can only work for now with these 3 hidden spells here. When I use Charm to get out a unit from a battlefield, if in this battlefield my opponent put a Zhonya, a Facebreaker, or a Fight or Flight, these 3 hidden spells will just die. This is because they cannot be used. They can be used, of course. For example, they could use Fight or Flight, but Facebreaker and Zhonya cannot really be used in this occasion. So it's a really good interaction to clean one of these 3 hidden spells with that charm. Another example. Let's say I have Sundisk. So if I have Sundisk and I want to play Noxus Saboteur, the only window my opponent has to chain their hidden spells is when I tap my Sundisk. Here they don't know which unit I will play, but this is their last window to be able to cast their Fey or their Console the Past in this example. If they do not, I can safely play my Saboteur, and because my Saboteur doesn't have an ETB trigger, enter the battlefield, I can just move it, and by moving it, they cannot play their hidden spells because Saboteur negates them. So I can safely kill this merchant and the hidden spells will not be activated. In the other hand, is I have the Sun Disk and I tap it. If my opponent guesses that I want to try to play my Saboteur, they can activate their hidden spells here. So they could draw 2 or they could play their Fate. This means when I play my Saboteur, there's no more hidden spells here, so it's technically useless for now. Another example. If you're playing against a green or Aurora deck, keep in mind that Defy and Windwall can negate our anti-gear spells. So Salvage, Thermo Beam, Fading Memories, and Acceptable Losses are all spells which can be negated with these spells here. Of course, Defy cannot negate Thermo Beam, but it can negate the other 3. This is why Adaptatron, even if it's a very, very bad card, it could be useful against a green Aurora deck. And now it's time for the puzzle. So, this is the situation. Your opponent has 6 cards in hand. They have 3 runes up, a hidden card in this battlefield. The battlefield doesn't matter. And they have a blue Ari here. My question is, what is the optimal number of +1 might that you want to give Vi to be able to conquer this battlefield? I want the ideal number, but don't overextend. Let's say you have 30 cards in your graveyard. It doesn't matter. What's the ideal number to be able to conquer this battlefield? I will give you some seconds, and I will reveal the answer right away. Okay, so the good answer is 14 cards. So this Vi can go to 17. Let's count together. This Ari deals 3 damage. With his ability, it deals 5. This one, it will go to 6. Let's say they tap 1 rune and they play En Garde. En Garde will give this Ari 2 more might. If you are the Ari player, be sure to finish the En Garde chain to be able to play this hidden Fate. Otherwise, En Garde will only give 1 might. So they play Fate, and it has 2 might, so let's go to 10. With the ability, it will reduce the Vi's might of 2, so let's say they have 12 might. With the 2 remaining might, they can give -4 to Vi during the showdown. Let's say we already attacked, and Vi will lose 4 might. It's 16. So our opponent with this board is able to go up to 16 might technically. So if you want to be able to conquer this battlefield, 14 cards will be enough. Just a little tip. If you want to play Ride the Wind to ready the vibe, be sure to do it before recycling your cards in case the Ari has a counterspell. So if you recycle 14 cards and Ari has a counterspell, you will just lose the Ride the Wind for free. This is in the case where you play the Vi on the same turn, so it enters tapped. Thank you very much and hope this was useful for you.